In this episode, we're going to address the question, how can I tell if an advisor knows how to properly structure an IUL? So when I wrote the book, The Laser Fund, there's actually a chapter that is titled, What Can Go Wrong? In fact, on the reverse side of the book is the right brain side, where we have 62 actual client stories and examples. And in every one of those 12 chapters, we might have 4 or 5 success stories, but we include one story in each chapter of when it went wrong. And it becomes very obvious why. So what can go wrong? When you have a complicated product like a max-funded indexed universal life insurance contract, it is imperative that it is structured properly and funded correctly. And so, of course, many times I will look at situations where they used the wrong company. There's over 200 companies that offer universal life. I would not put my money in 95% of them. There's only about 5 or 6 companies that I would put my money into, and all of these companies have been around since the 1800s. They've weathered the Great Depression with flying colors. Also, the right product. If people use the wrong product with the right company, it's not going to work. So you have to use the right product. So the biggest reason that things go wrong is because the advisor is not proficient. In the book, The Laser Fund, we actually have 14 questions that you can ask a licensed advisor. And if they say, I don't know, but I'll find out, that's a red flag. They should be able to answer these 14 questions off the cuff. Are you ready? Here we go. So at the end of this episode, if you have not claimed your free copy of the Laser Fund book, be sure and do so. But this is actually found on page 195 of this 300-page book titled The Laser Fund, How to Diversify and Create the Foundation for a Tax-Free Retirement. And so we call this the Laser Ready Test. So here's an example of the questions that you ought to ask an advisor. What is TEFRA, DEFRA, and TAMRA, and how do they impact my policy? Now, if they say, let me check on that. Red flag, they should know that right off the cuff. Next, explain to me Internal Revenue Code Section 72E, 7702, and 101A. If they go, let me look that up, red flag. They should know that instantly. What's a Guideline single premium? They should know that off the cuff. That's the amount of money that you designed the indexed universal life insurance policy to accommodate over the first 11 years you put money into the policy. That's the maximum amount allowed into the policy based on how you structure it. They should know that right off the bat. What factors will the insurance company consider when gauging the size of my policy besides the Guideline single premium? That's based upon TEFRA, DEFRA, and TAMRA. That's age, gender, and your health. What size policy would someone have, on average, who is a healthy 60-year-old male with a GSP, that stands for Guideline single premium, they should know that, of $500,000. Now, if they've done this at all, they should know, yep, $500,000 would require a minimum death benefit of about $1,250,000. They don't need to look that up. They should know it that quick, okay? Otherwise, that's a red flag. What are the rules for perfecting a modified endowment contract? You can even say, what are the rules for perfecting a MEC? If they go, what's a MEC? They don't know what they're talking about. How can an insurance company earning 5% on their general account portfolio afford to credit a policy 7 or 8%? Now, we've answered that question in this free mini course here. But if they can't answer that off the cuff, that's a danger sign. How can policyholders experience 1 to 2% higher payouts than the average index they are linked to? We've answered that in this series. It's by using the arbitrage, by borrowing your money out instead of withdrawing it, and paying 5% and continuing to earn 7, 8, 9, 10% or more. If they don't know that, that's a danger sign. How about this one? Who runs your policy illustrations? If they say, well, I have someone at the home office do it, that's a danger sign. They should be running it to tweak how it will perform. This is the next one. If I maximum fund a laser fund over the life of the policy, what is the expected net internal rate of return likely going to be compared to the gross rate of return? They should right off the bat say 1%, thereabouts. If it's not 1%, they've structured it wrong, like many of these people I told you about, where maybe they earned 11, but they only netted 6. Why? Because they had way too much insurance than what they needed to have in there, and the insurance agent made a bunch of commission instead of you making a great rate of return. How long have you been structuring these types of policies? If they say, well, I'm just learning how to do it, you better make sure somebody who understands it is helping them if they're a relative. Otherwise, I would not put your money into that. Do you specialize in maximum funded indexed universal life policies, or do you handle all kinds of other insurance, such as auto insurance or homeowners? You want to have a specialist, not just a regular property and casualty insurance person that also sells life insurance. They do not do it enough to know how to stay sharp. How many insurance companies do you represent? If they only represent one, if they are a captive agent with one company, that's usually not a good sign. You want to have 5 or 6 different companies that they can select based upon your particular set of circumstances. And the last question, is insurance your sole profession, or is it a part-time endeavor? Sometimes the saddest stories come from people who maybe give haircuts by day and sell insurance by night. You want to make sure somebody is doing this as a full-time profession, and they've been spending hours and hours helping people design these for years. Those 14 questions ought to be asked, and your advisor ought to be able to answer them that fast to your satisfaction, or beware, find someone who can answer those 14 questions satisfactorily for you. So this is episode 20 out of 21. There's one remaining episode in this series. If you've been going chronologically through it, you've maybe already taken advantage and claimed your free copy of this book. If not, I want to gift you a copy for free. You simply go to laserfund.com. It's a 300-page book with all kinds of charts, graphs, and explanations, and actually 62 client stories and examples of how the Laser Fund has helped many, many people achieve their financial goals. I'll pay for the book. You pay $5.95 shipping and handling. Let me fire out a copy for you, and I want you to be empowered with education so that you can have a tax-free retirement.